Yep.
Now, X-Rock 105 presents Rock Doctor. You've got questions, she's got answers.
Yeah!
You can call, text your question to 970-553-9001 or hit us up on the X-Rock Facebook page. The information on this program is not to be used as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment of any health condition or problem. Listeners should not rely on information provided for their own health problems. Any questions regarding your own health should be addressed to your own primary care physician or other professional healthcare provider.
Good at that.
Ah, yes, the Rock Doctor is on the radio.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
If I was any better, I'd be you.
Oh, well, yes, I'll take that.
And I'd be rich and famous. No.
I'm all of those things.
Oh, no, I'm saying if I was any better. I'm
Yeah.
doing great. Dodging the flu bullet.
Yeah, the crud is around. It is for reals.
I was just reading a story. The Center for Disease Control.
Oh.
Well, they're not doing a very good job controlling it, are they?
I'm going to go with no.
Epidemic in the United States?
The flu is?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Australia, it's killing people.
It's killing people here, too.
Well, yeah.
How do you die from the flu?
That's a really good question, actually. My guess would be there'd be respiratory complications, where people can't breathe.
Okay.
Is the primary thing. And I think there's people that are, most of the people that are passing are either really old or really, really, really young.
So the common denominator in that both scenarios would be their immune systems
Low immunity.
are either not developed or they're...
Yeah. Well, a lot of our elderly are on steroids for various inflammatory, pain
Right.
conditions and whatever, and steroids suppress the immune system. So I think that we can't forget that connection either.
Okay, so wow.
Did you not know that?
Well, you've got yeah, you're the doctor. I'm not. I'm just I'm the guy. I'm the good-looking guy that
Yes.
sits here and pushes buttons.
And you push them most of the time well.
I push everybody's buttons. That's my job. I've made a great career out of pushing people's buttons.
I can see that.
970-385-1053 if you've got a question from Dr. Nicola of Pure Vita Healthcare. Wow, he's all fired up today.
Yeah, he is fired up today. We're going up to the mountains, so he's psyched.
Ah, okay. And 970-553-9001 if you want to text your question in for Dr. Nicola of Pure Vita Healthcare. Okay, so the flu, it's epidemic. What is it? What does it mean, epidemic?
Epidemic is when it hits a certain amount of people, so a certain percentage of the population, and it touches that many people, and then that becomes an epidemic, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So 10 people having the flu is not an epidemic.
Not an epidemic.
10, 100 million, billion, gajillion would be.
Definitely.
Okay, what makes... they have all these... Now, they have the cute names. They have the swine flu, and you have this flu, the bird flu, and that flu.
Yeah.
You doctor types have the NCXC394
Right.
numbers for it.
Right. Yeah, so basically that talks about where the flu came from, or what type of flu, or what mutation, because flu is basically a virus, right?
Right.
And we know that viruses mutate really well, which means they change, and which is part of the reason why they have such a hard time getting a flu vaccine that actually works. And this is research supported. This is not my opinion.
Sure.
But part of
Well,
what
you're
happens...
entitled to your opinion, too. I mean, you're
Well,
a doctor. If you don't think flu vaccines work,
I
think it's okay to have that opinion.
I'm not sure. It depends on where the research is from. If the research is from Big Pharma, then they say that it works really, really well.
Of course.
But again, we've had the flu vaccine for 10, 15 years now, and we have an epidemic of flu in this country this year. After this year, they claimed that this is the most matchy of the vaccine to the virus
Right.
that they've had yet all of a sudden we're having a flu epidemic. So I don't understand that math.
I don't, and if it's different virus, if the virus mutates, and how do they know? Do they do like a teleconference in September, and they go, okay, let's get everybody together. What kind of flu is going to go around? How can you predict how a virus is going to mutate?
Yeah, there's a decent amount of science that goes into the prediction of it, but it's like anything else, it's a prediction. So we're making our best educated guess around how the virus is going to mutate based on how it's mutated each year before. But it's still, at the end of the day, a best guess.
Now, all these different names. Now, how many millions of people died during the Spanish flu outbreak back in the early?
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
now why did that virus kill so many people and this one didn't, or isn't, or hasn't so far?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think it's a
Thank you. I get paid to ask the
the tough questions. It depends. I mean, there's something called virulence, and that means how strong is the virus. And so there's viruses that are stronger than others. There are viruses that cause issue. Like Epstein-Barr is the virus that causes mono. And now that causes a pretty gnarly infection and illness for a number of months, and it can take up to 6 to 12 months to fully recover. And we're now understanding that the virus doesn't actually always go away. So it might be, even though you're no longer fatigued and swollen glands and all that sort of like kind of classic mono symptoms, that you might be having other issues. And I have a lot of patients that I see that's like, yeah, I had mono, and now that you come to think of it, I've actually not been quite the same since. But it's not, the virulence isn't real strong. Whereas you have something like HIV, where when it came on scene, I mean, it was killing people by the tens of thousands, right? And
yeah.
And so now we have meds that work, but even in HIV, that virus is constantly mutating, which is why we're seeing a shuffle in the medications.
So, can the Spanish flu come back?
Sure, absolutely.
And what would stop it from killing millions of people again?
That's the big fear, right? That's, I think, what the big push in the industry. I mean, if we can kind of take the cynicism around Big Pharma aside, I mean, I think that's what the push is for a flu vaccine, is because these can be lethal and they can be really, really big health threats, especially to people who are immunocompromised.
All right, now I asked you this a few weeks ago, and for the two people that are listening this week that weren't listening last week, what's the difference between the flu and a cold?
Sure.
I mean, because you get a fever with both, you get stuffy nose, sometimes you get a cough.
Well, with a cold, I'd be surprised if you got a fever. Most people don't actually get a fever with just a straight up cold. But I think another piece is, some people can get body aches, but the flu, it's like I want to get out of bed and I cannot. The aches are there, the fatigue is pretty crushing, the fever is more pronounced. I think you do get some stuffiness and some congestion, maybe some sneezing, but that's not the primary. I feel like the symptoms are the same, but when you just have a straight up cold, it's like your primary complaints are my nose is stuffed, I've got sinus pressure, I've got a cough, I've got sneezing, whereas with the flu, you're talking more about the body aches, the fatigue, the chills, that sort of stuff, the fever. Yeah. So you might have the same symptoms, but it's like which one is predominant. And a cold should, if you're resting and taking lots of fluids and doing everything you're supposed to do, it should pass, in 3 to 5 days. The flu's going to hold on more like 7 to 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. Aha, this is good. Yeah. Cherie over here raising her hand. You have the flu or a cold?
Flu.
Get out.
Yeah, for the record, I did text her this morning and tell her not to be here.
I'm not really here.
So are we gonna all get sick now?
No, I really don't worry about that. So I feel like, whether or not you're susceptible to something makes me... So, for example, last week when I was in here, I had an itchy throat and I was chewing on throat lozenges and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm coming down with something.
And the week before I had the...
you had something.
I had the
gunk.
The rainbow nasal drip.
Yes, exactly. I went home, I took a bunch of herbs, I was doing my throat lozenges, I was taking my tea, I took a 3-hour nap, I did a thyme steam a couple of times, and what that means is you just take a little bit of thyme essential oil. Now, essential oils up the nose, more is not better.
Well, you get drowned!
Well...
The doctor said to give me a nasal douche.
Well, there's the water aspect of it, but there's the strength of an essential oil that's anywhere near your respiratory passages. And us, in our culture, we think more is always better. Not when you're breathing really potent oils up your respiratory tract. So when I say a couple drops, I mean 2 to 4 drops of oil in a big ceramic bowl. Pour boiling hot water over it, put your face over it, maybe let the really hot steam come off first, and then put your face over it. Believe you me, people are like, you gotta really let that sit for a minute. I'm like, yes, you do. It's
Bondad man admitted to hospital for second-degree burns caused by steam vaporizing.
Caused by naturopathic advice. Yeah. And then you put a towel over your head, and then just let yourself breathe in that steam for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's really sad that we live in a day and age where we actually have to say, let it cool down for a second. I mean, are you really that stupid?
Well,
Common sense should tell you, Okay, it feels hot. Okay, I'm gonna wait just a minute.
Yeah, well, we're not really living in a realm of self-responsibility anymore. You know, it's like...
See, I say let Darwinism kick in and take care of, just thin the herd a little bit.
There's a really funny video going around about millennials. Have you seen this one? Where it's like it opens up like a big charity drive, like a UNICEF type commercial where it's like feed the children kind of scene,
Okay.
but it's really about adopting a millennial. Because they need their hot yoga subscription and their kombucha delivered, you know, every day, and you know all that, and they don't want to work. So anyway, that's kind of an aside, but it's really funny. It's on one of the things on YouTube.
Well, hey,
Total non sequitur, total
sure.
diversion.
Well,
But
take digression for
History.
1,000, please. Okay, so you do the hot steam. I mean,
Yeah.
when I get sick, whether it's a cold or flu, I love taking hot baths because
Yes.
you get the steam
Yes.
and it loosens things and it just
Yep.
relaxes the body.
Absolutely.
You got a fever. Now, we talked last week that a fever is your body's natural defense mechanism.
Why, yes, Jamie, that's exactly right.
See what I got to deal with here, folks?
No,
I got letters by my name. I'm going to be condescending to you.
no, I'm just surprised you remembered like to that detail. That's fantastic.
Okay, so...
I don't know that anybody's listening to my words, so it's just a nice affirmation.
Hey, come on. I've eaten green stuff you've brought in here. I'm
Yes,
trying
you
to be a
have.
good boy.
Twice.
Yeah.
I know.
And both times it doesn't come out green.
Which is good. It means you're absorbing it. If it came out the same way it went in, I'd be more concerned.
You'd be concerned if you saw the... Anyway, now you made me forget what I was going to... No, okay, so...
Fevers.
The fever, it's the body's natural defense mechanism.
Yes.
Should you be taking medicine to make the fever go away?
I generally recommend no, as a general rule, because basically that part of the aches that you have in your body are the fever and the immune cells that they're doing their job, and that's because feeling achy serves actually a couple of purposes. One is it's part of the side effect of the inflammation that's happening in your body, a good inflammation that's happening in your body to fight the infection. And two, it keeps you in bed, which is where
Yeah,
you're
you feel
supposed
like
to be.
crap, so
Right.
you...
So, take some Tylenol, which drops your fever, drops the body aches. Oh, I'm actually not that bad. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to spread this around. I'm going to, take more time to actually get well. And then we get sicker and sicker and sicker. But we keep on pushing through. So, but however, if you're not sleeping, a lot of times when you have a fever and those body aches, all we're doing is sleeping, kind of in and out of sleep all day. We're
Right.
watching movies and reading
Trying to,
books and
anyway.
falling asleep. It might be broken sleep, but a lot of what we're doing is sleeping, which is a good thing,
Right.
right? And so we don't want to break that. However, if the coughing or the fever is getting in the way of you or your kiddo sleeping at night, then I do consider doing something so that we can... Generally, I recommend trying to spike the fever, which means getting it to like heighten and then break. And there's things like you can get in a hot bath, which is counterintuitive when you have a fever, right?
See, I don't. For me, it's not counterintuitive
No.
because that's exactly
feels
what I'm
good.
trying to do. I'm trying to I'm trying to, in fact, raise my body
That's
temperature.
exactly right. Yeah, so you want to support the fever. So getting into a hot bath, and then I have people drink, ideally, yarrow tea. It's YARROW. A lot of us around here have it growing in our garden. It's that really pretty flower. It's usually white or yellow, and the leaves have a bunch of tiny little leaves. Anyway, it's really known to help bring up a fever. So if you could do yarrow tea, it is a little bit bitter, so add a little bit of honey or add a different flavor tea.
Sure.
Add a raspberry zinger and yarrow.
Drop some kale in it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the two crappy tastes will cancel each other out. And
I'm going to say bitter and bitter is going to go more bitter.
Oh, okay. All right.
But if you can drink that tea and actually in the bath try to get so warm that you move into a sweat. And that's actually a good thing because then we're moving out of the fever and we've broken that fever. When you break the fever, you get that nice sweat and it feels chilly but good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. So there's ways to actually bring that up in the body.
See, I'm so glad to learn that what I've been doing is right because I'll take that hot bath and then I'll get into a pair of sweatpants and a sweatshirt
Yep.
and I'll just curl up in bed.
Yep.
And just sweat like a pig for
Yep.
Maybe overnight. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And you wake up feeling...
Like I did before I had the fever.
Really? You don't feel any better?
No,
you feel better.
Oh yeah, way better.
Right.
Because I hate feeling sick, and I've heard over the years that let the fever run its natural course.
Yeah, ideally.
We're going to take a break here,
Yeah.
but there is a question I want to ask you. Running a fever, it's your body's natural defense mechanism.
Yes.
At what point is it fever bad for you?
More to be continued.
We'll have more coming up with the Rock Doctor. Dr. Nicola from Pure Vita Healthcare. 970-385-1053 is the phone number if you'd like to call in and ask a question. And our text line is 970-553-9001. It's the Rock Doctor on X-Rock 105.
Stoked about finally getting in some turns now that ski season is almost here. Worried about where you're going to stay after
Go make sure we're actually recording this fine adventure.
Oh my goodness.
comedy. Locally owned and operated, they offer brewery packages and ski deals.
Hey, look, Jackson's down there.
Cozy night, the newly renovated Econo Lodge in Durango. Be sure to say hi to Brooke and
That's so
Tom. They're
funny.
waiting for you to arrive. Econo Lodge in Durango for a quality stay. It's the best price in town. Call 970-247-4242
Hey, how are ya?
or
Hey, when I'm in the middle of the show, can you not try to pay attention?
Everybody's surprises.
Yeah?
It's called rugula, but not they.
Oh.
It's not as healthy of a choice as a
Rugula.
rugula.
Rugula, I know rugula.
You do? I had to have her say that twice. I was like, what is
Oh,
it?
there's like such a apricot or something, right?
Yes. And I got apricot ones, boysenberry, and raspberry.
Wow, that's nice. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think on the plate is tasting.
Is there?
Because that's loud.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, sounds like something you need to be a part of. Push the buttons. Push the buttons.
X-Rock 105, Rock Doctor is on your radio, 970-385-1053 if you got a question you'd like to call in and ask. Or you can text us at 553-9001. Dr. Nicola from Pure Vita Healthcare is in the house. All right, we're talking about fevers. All right, a fever is your body's natural defense mechanism.
Yes.
You get sick, you get the cold, the flu, or whatever. Well, probably more the flu than the cold, but
Yep.
no, it's interesting. If you pull a muscle or something, sometimes it'll get hot.
Yes, exactly. So that's a sign of infection or inflammation. Sorry, inflammation.
Right.
So there's redness, there's heat. There's 4 of them. Oh my gosh. There's swelling. There's this Latin. It's like rubor, tumor, dolor, and something else.
I saw that movie.
Did you?
Those were the villains. At what point is a fever dangerous?
Sure. So it depends. So in little kids, we, especially little babies, like 6 months, I do get concerned about a fever 104, 105. And again, an immunocompromised elderly, we kind of worry about that. I'm really quite comfortable with a fever that's at 104.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because the body...
I mean, I feel like crap when my fever's 100.
Yes, exactly. But most of the time, if we have a fever of 100, 101, that's probably a viral infection. Because the body knows that it doesn't have to spike it to 103 because the virus only likes it around 98.6, 99. So if we could just take the body up 1 or 2 degrees, that's probably enough to fight a viral infection. So most of the time with a flu, we're not seeing really high fevers. However, with a bacterial infection, bacteria can hang out at 100 degrees and 101 degrees. And so our body needs to ramp up to 102, 103, 104. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So
that all makes sense.
Well-
No wonder my doctors were confused. I had a strep infection.
Okay.
Not in my throat. It settled in my leg.
Yep. Mhm.
When I was 10, 15 years ago now.
Okay.
And when you first go in to the doctor and then ultimately the hospital, they thought, well, blood poisoning, so that would be they were giving me
Antibiotics. Right. Mm-hmm.
But for the staph,
For staph, right? Because staph is bacterial.
and it turned out it was strep.
Okay.
And I remember my fever one night when I was in the hospital. I mean, they're waking me up. Are you okay? Are you? Yeah,
Because it was super high, the
it was
fever.
like 105.7 or something like that. I mean, it was bad. The bed was just a puddle of sweat. Mm-hmm. But that was also, it peaked right there.
Yep.
And honestly, was that my body saying we won or I give up?
Yeah, no, it's saying we won because it doesn't have to be there for very long, but it's incredibly uncomfortable to be there. And especially if you're a parent watching your kid be there, it's really, really hard to not give them the Tylenol or something because they feel like trash. They feel terrible. And so you want to give them something to make their symptoms go away. But what ends up happening is as soon as the Tylenol wears off, then the fever spikes again. Yeah. And so and so then we're chasing it, and we're giving them maybe 2, 3, 4 doses of Tylenol in a day, and we're not really letting their little bodies do what their bodies know how to do.
Okay,
so monitor it for sure, but fevers are actually pretty safe.
Is there anything you should do? I mean, drink. We already have established you drink fluids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that helps flush you out.
Yeah, absolutely. They say I would say just stick to liquids. People really worry that people aren't eating, during a fever.
You don't feel like eating.
You don't feel like eating, but broth is a really good option. And even, like a vegetable bouillon cube broth, it's like nice and salty, or an actual bone broth would be ideal, because then you're getting a lot of nutrition in without having to digest very much. But broth and coconut water, and if kids don't like, a lot of times what I'll have parents do is, if you can get like a powdered immune support, you can mix. A lot of times it's like a grape flavor. You can mix it with coconut water and make popsicles. And so if there's a sore throat or whatever, or just kid doesn't feel good, oh honey, you don't feel good, let me give you a popsicle. Like, it's just a nice, comforting.
And then the psychological, oh wow,
I'm getting treats.
Sick, and I get a popsicle.
I get to eat popsicles all day long, and so that way you're making sure they're hydrating, because sometimes when we have a fever, we don't even actually want to drink.
You don't want to do much. You just want to lay there and be like, especially us guys, right? I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
If we get a fever of 99 and we're like, is 99 even a fever?
A little bit, but yeah. But yes, that does.
Oh.
I know. It's so sad.
Okay, so a fever of 101, 102, even 103 is...
I would absolutely let it ride. 104, yeah.
At what point, at what point then, let me ask you this, and I know the answer is going to be different for different age groups. Your kid, at what point do you call your doctor and say, my kid's fever is...
I'd say 104, 105.
That high?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Unless it's a little tiny kid, absolutely. And you might want to, if it's not clear why there's a fever, if there's just a fever with no other symptoms, or if there's a fever with neck pain, we want to find out like what other thing is going on. But if it's typical and you just know from looking at them it's a cold or a flu, let it ride. But if you're not sure why they have a fever, they're not presenting like a normal illness would with a fever, then it's good to consider.
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to call your doctor
absolutely.
if you're concerned.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to reassure people that everything's not a panic mode.
No, that's exactly right. And again, I think when your kiddo, especially, is not feeling good, you feel panicked because you want to make them feel better, and it's hard to just let them just ride it out. Homeopathy is a cool option of medicine that's really, really good at treating fever, and it's really safe even in tiny little infants. There's no side effects, there's no contraindications with any other medications or anything like that. And so understanding how to use just some basic fever remedies if your kid is fever prone, because there's definitely some kids I have in my practice that just when they get sick they get a fever. It's just part of their drill. It's just they always spike a fever. My kiddo has had 2 or 3 fevers in his 8 years, so he's just not much of a fever producer. So, everybody's going to have their tendencies in a weaker system.
So you're not a fever producer, Jackson? What's up with that? It's radio. They can't see you shaking your head.
It's like, Mom just told me to be quiet. Now you're asking me questions. I don't want to get in trouble.
You can answer. No, he's not going to do it.
Oh, well, excuse me. Okay, so I mean, that's normal though for a kid to be fever prone versus not fever.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, I'm learning stuff in here.
You're going to get your letters yet?
My letters, yeah. D-U-M-A. I know, dumb is spelled D-U-M-B or whatever. Okay, so now, what if the fever is lasting for? I mean, how long should a fever last and it be considered normal versus?
Yeah, I'd say 2 or 3 days is probably the longest I'd go without asking somebody for input.
Could you see that on if condition persists for
48 hours?
Yeah, contact your doctor.
Absolutely.
Is that just them trying to cover their butt?
No, I think that's pretty legit.
Okay.
You do want a fever should do its job quickly, right? And so we should be able to spike. We should be able to spike the fever and have it be effective and then move on. It shouldn't be something that lingers for days and days and days.
And a fever is your body temperature normally is 98.6.
Yep.
At what point does a fever is it considered a fever?
I would say 99. Is considered a low grade fever.
So that half degree?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now somebody like me, my blood or my body temperature typically runs lower than 98.6. And I guess it's the reptilian blood inside me. But so if I take my temperature and it's 99, I'm running a fever.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's knowing your body, right? So if you're running normally at 98 and you're at 99, then that's the same as somebody else running at 99.6.
Right.
Yeah.
And that 98.6 is an average.
It's an average, yeah, absolutely. And there's other reasons why people might run low. Thyroid issues can cause people to run at a little bit of a lower temperature.
You think it's my thyroid?
Yes, which is not on the side of your neck, it's on the front of your neck.
I know, but if I go like that, then I can't talk. Can you check my thyroid? Is it my thyroid?
I don't know. We'd have to do some blood work. Which we can do that.
I don't want to. No, she's typical doctor. Well, got to stick a needle in you. Got to draw some blood. Got to shoot you up a little. No, I'm kidding.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's you.
All of those things.
That's right.
Yes, that's
okay,
exactly
so 2-3 days. What about for kids?
Same. 2-3 days.
Elderly?
Again, elderly, I'd be a little bit more cautious, but a day or two, I would just keep an eye on things. And again, it's hard to say in the elderly because, especially in our community, there's some elderly folks technically that are really, really vital. And so if they're running a fever for a couple of days, I'm not necessarily worried about it. But then there's our more frail elderly that maybe are on some medications that are immunosuppressive or have a history of things going to pneumonia very easily. It just depends on your health history.
I'm glad you brought that up. It starts off as a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you've got double walking pneumonia.
Right.
How and what is I've just made that up. What is that?
Walking pneumonia is, so sometimes when you have pneumonia, you're pretty bedridden, you can't get out. But when you have walking pneumonia, it means you don't feel that crummy, but you can't quite clear the lung stuff.
And pneumonia is just
an infection in the lungs.
So your lungs get mucousy or whatever.
They get inflamed, they get fluid and that sort of stuff. And double pneumonia would mean you have it on both lobes of the lung, the right side and the left side. Typically pneumonia is only in one place in the lung.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. So that double walking pneumonia actually is a thing.
Well, I thought I was just making stuff up. I mean, I've heard of double pneumonia and I've heard of walking pneumonia.
Yeah, but
and the boogie woogie blues.
Yeah, as well.
I've got the walking pneumonia. I'm showing my age again. So you can have pneumonia in both lungs and still be walking? I would think.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised, right? But
but how does it go from having a cold then to a flu then to pneumonia?
Yeah, sure. It just progresses, right? It just kind of gets deeper and deeper into our body. So it's not unusual for a head cold to go into sinusitis, and then maybe sinusitis to go into bronchitis, and then bronchitis can go into pneumonia easily, right? So each one of these kind of levels of illness creates more susceptibility for us to get sicker in other places. And again, there's everybody has a weaker organ system. So for some of us it's digestion. Like if we get sick, it's always a digestive thing, or if there's a digestive thing going around, we're more prone to getting it. And for some people it's the lungs, so they're just like, every time I get sick, it goes into bronchitis. And so there's a lot we can do to actually support that. A lot of times I do a nebulizer treatment with folks, and so I give it to them and they do it at home. But it's got N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, which is...
Bless you, I think.
Well, NAC is awesome for anybody who's got chronic lung stuff or asthma or tightness or just mucus that won't quite clear. It breaks up mucus, and so it's it's a natural substance that just helps us to get rid of the gunk. It also is really great as an antioxidant in the lungs. And so this formula that I do also has glyceric acid, which sounds very frightening, but really it's just an extract from licorice.
So you have people do acid. That's really cool.
Glyceric acid. Yes, very different than the acid you might be referring to. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's from licorice.
It would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it does. But licorice is really antiviral, and so if you can breathe that into your lungs...
Licorice is?
Licorice is.
So I'm going to get a pack of red vines and I'm being antiviral?
So it's so funny you bring that up, because licorice and marshmallow, they actually came from herbs. So it's one of our first candies. Root beer. So root beer was actually made of plant roots. That's
Right.
why it was called that. So sarsaparilla and some other roots, and so a lot of our candies and sodas actually came from herbs and herbal remedies. And so marshmallow is actually a plant, and it's really gooey. Yeah, that's the best way to talk about it. But we've changed that, since. But like Luden's cough drops, the wild cherry.
Yeah.
Well, wild cherry bark is really known for reducing cough. And so original Luden's wild cherry wasn't cherry flavored corn syrup drops. They were actually had the extract of the wild cherry bark, and they really are a great tonic for people that have cough. It's something I put in almost all of my cough formulas just because it really does help reduce that cough. So a lot of these things that have now, like the formulas have been changed over years, licorice being one of those things where black licorice was from licorice root and has that pretty distinct flavor, and now it's all artificial.
So, red vine's no good?
Red vine's no good.
Ah!
Yeah.
Darn it!
I know. I would even go black licorice, no good.
I was going to go buy some root beer and red vines and say, doctor's
Yep.
order. Not so much?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, some of the root beers that are out there are actually traditional root beers you can get at the health food stores.
Sure.
And they taste a little bit different, and they have, still sugar in them, but they'll be a little bit more.
Well, I mean,
helpful.
Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it, too.
That's
so-
exactly right. Yeah, and
Why
that
did
was the pick-me-up. It wasn't so much the caffeine.
Why did they change that formula? Darn it!
I know.
Darn it!
Well, cocaine used to cure what ails you. I mean, when it first came on the market, it was kind of a big deal. Same thing with opium.
It didn't cure you. It just made you have energy and not want to. You didn't care that you were ailing.
Right, that's just it. But that made you feel better for the moment, right?
Well, mind over matter.
Well, and cocaine over fatigue.
Sure, we'll go with that. 970-385-1053 is the phone number if you've got a question for Dr. Nicola of Pura Vida Healthcare. You can also text your question to 970-553-9001. We got more on the way with the Rock Doctor on X-Rock 105.
My name is Peggy. I am 61 years old. I've been a diabetic most of my adult life.
How you doing?
Suggested to me
No, how you doing?
to go on a diet. I thought my doctor was
Give you a
crazy.
shot.
No diet has
I don't
ever
know what that
worked for
is.
me. So I met
was
Dr.
it?
Lucas.
What'd you make?
Now 5 weeks from the end of the program, and
Look
I'm
at
on
that.
insulin.
Oh, bullet holder.
So it's like,
You're gonna ask me.
The whole package.
yeah. Is there inflation on Would you like that? So it's gonna gamble because I don't know which is which, but there's 2 apricots, there's 2 raspberries, so your odds are you're gonna get one of those. And then there's 1 raspberry.
Do you want this to go in any
one
direction?
boysenberry.
No,
But they're
this
kind
is
of like,
good. Yeah, totally.
She's taking one and showing.
yeah, go ahead. No, you hit me.
They're like donuts with jelly filling, bug.
They're kind of like croissants wrapped with yumminess. Basic kind of, but more crunchy. What's the baklava? So you know what baklava is?
Durango, Best Cleaning, Papa Murphy's, Superfizz, Coors, Sante's, and X-Rock Super Party for the big
Would you like? Can I get you a plate?
Yes, please.
X-Rock 105, the Rock Doctor is on your radio at 970-385-1053. If you've got a question for Dr. Nicola of Pura Vida Healthcare, feel free to shoot us a call. Or you could text us at 970-553-9001. Yeah, she's Dr. Feelgood, all right. Yeah.
I want you to feel good. That's right.
All right, I got a text here from Adam on our text line at 970-553-9001. Are there foods you can eat that will boost your immune system so you don't get sick?
Yeah, great question. I love that. Yeah, so any fermented foods, actually. So kombucha or sauerkraut, that sort of stuff, is really high in probiotics. And what a lot of us don't realize is that most of our immune system is actually in the gut. So I think we talked about this before, but the same tissue that makes your tonsils, that lymph tissue, surrounds the entire intestines. And so there's way, way, way more immune function happening in your gut than there is anywhere else in your body.
Well, I guess that would make sense. If,
Yeah.
if it gets out of balance, that's why you have the not so solid
Yeah,
back end release.
very, very.
Okay, you get diarrhea.
Yeah, there you go. Back end release just sounded, I don't know, awkward.
So it's diarrhea.
Okay, great. But so the probiotics that are in your gut have so much more to do than with just gut function. So they have a lot to do with your whole immunity.
Well, it's your gas tank. I mean, everything you take in, that's where it's it's stored and starts. Like, well, I mean, I guess it starts in your mouth. But.
Yeah, technically it starts in your mouth. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on with just digesting food, but then there's a lot of immune function that people don't necessarily realize. That people think about probiotics as being good for gut health, which is true, but it's also really, really important for immune health. So, getting some fermented foods in every day. And then we talk about vitamin C, and a lot of people think oranges, right, as a vitamin C, but red peppers, bell peppers, have a lot of vitamin C. And so looking for vitamin C sources that don't necessarily have a ton of sugar. But I would definitely stick with oranges rather than orange juice, just so you're not getting that huge sugar load. And then that's another thing, is just kind of really minimizing the sugar intake. For every teaspoon of sugar that you eat, your immune system is depressed for about 6 hours. And so if you are being exposed, let's say your wife is sick with the flu.
I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, we're done.
Yeah, and you've avoided...
My immune system's been suppressed since I was born then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's just it, right, is that there are a lot of pieces. So if your wife's sick with the flu and you've avoided the sugar-free challenge, you might be putting yourself at a little bit more risk of getting sick.
Oh.
Alcohol is another thing. So
I love alcohol.
Yeah. Although I'll tell you,
alcohol kills germs. That's why you swab people's arms before you give them a shot.
That's exactly right. So that's rubbing alcohol, not so much the alcohol you drink. However, I am a proponent of a hot toddy, and so that's honey and lemon and whiskey and hot water. And I would say half a shot of whiskey, but it really does help to open up the sinuses and that sort of stuff.
I'm a bigger guy, so I think maybe a full shot for somebody my size. But okay, yeah.
Either way, but you are going to lose a little bit of the alcohol content with the boiling water. But there is something to be said for having.
Then why you got to put half a shot in? You're going to lose some.
Yeah.
Don't have a bottle.
But they do work. I really do feel like they do help people feel better. Just that warm. There's something about warm whiskey is really. It just opens things up a bit.
See, when I get like a cold or whatever. How you get the little thing of NyQuil? Mm-hmm. I like to, I don't, one of those little plastic, I don't drink a cup, I drink half a bottle.
Wow.
And it knocks me out, and then I feel
sure
better. I feel better when I wake up in 10 hours.
Or a couple of days. Sure, yeah. I would avoid that sort of over-the-counter, symptom-based stuff. Again, like we talked about before, there's a reason your body is doing what it's doing. There's a reason your body has a bunch of mucus. Now, again, if it's hard to get that mucus out or it's creating a lot of sinus pressure and pain, yeah, sure, we can do stuff. We can, and again, this is from my perspective, take herbs and do a thyme steam and a neti pot and, cold socks.
And a hot toddy.
You're in a hot toddy. Absolutely. Very natural.
Two of those
that's
an
another
hour?
Thing we haven't talked about. Huh?
2 of those and 2 hot toddies an hour?
2 an hour and you'll sleep just fine. You won't need that NyQuil.
Perfect. Okay. I'm writing this down here. Doctor says 2 hot toddies.
Coerced, doctor says. So there's another thing too, another home remedy that I love, and that's called warming socks. And it sounds awful, but really...
Warming socks?
Warming socks. It's a bit of a misnomer. Really, it should be freezing cold socks. But what happens is you make sure your feet are nice and warm. And so if you even have to put your feet into a warm bath or something, just make sure they're nice and warm. And then you put thin cotton socks into a bowl of ice water. And then you wring them out really good, and you put them on your warm feet. And then you put a pair of dry, thick wool socks over the top, and then you hop into bed and go to sleep. And what that does is it helps move the circulation out of your head and your chest and your sinuses and into your feet, and it gets the lymph flowing, because as soon as your blood starts flowing, because the circulation is going to go to your feet to try to warm them up, as soon as your blood starts flowing, then that means your lymph is flowing too. So it just helps move the congestion, and it also, there's a ton of studies looking at, this is called hydrotherapy, or the therapeutic use of water, and it actually boosts the amount of immune cells you've got in your system.
I got to tell you, the last time I heard the word hydrotherapy, the word colon was placed in front of it.
That is a division of hydrotherapy, yes.
No.
Yeah. We can talk about that another week.
No,
Let's stick to
we don't need to talk about that at all. But that seems counterintuitive.
Right, exactly. But
because I like my feet being nice and warm and cozy at
and
night.
they should be very, very warm. And so I do not like sleeping with socks on at all.
I don't either.
Yes, but this is I sleep like a baby when I do this. It's pretty amazing.
Really?
It really increases the parasympathetic or relaxed part of your nervous system.
I'll be done.
Yeah. So it's really, really relaxing. It does induce a deeper sleep. It gets your immune system boosted, and it moves your lymph. And so if you can do that when you're sick, that's really, really awesome as well.
That'd be kind of a scary thing to see my lymph move.
Well, you don't want it stuck, that's for sure.
Well, that's true. You can't have a... you're going to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
It's going to be our last show.
Filter.
Okay, so now you say that like with a cold, having that cough, I mean, yeah, you're trying to get that mucus up out of your lungs.
Yep.
Why does the body produce that in the first place? And if it's trying to get rid of it, shouldn't you help it get rid of it? Like, as in take something that makes it go away faster?
Well, I mean, if it's a bacterial infection, antibiotics are definitely an option. But if it's a viral infection, we don't really have anything. We don't have an antiviral pharmaceutical.
Yeah, they're not going to give you antivirals because you have a cough, unless it's whooping cough.
Right. I mean, we have antivirals for HIV and we have antivirals for herpes and things like that. But you're not going to take that for a respiratory infection that's viral, right? So we don't really have something to get rid of it. What your body has is the ability to. Basically what happens with the immune system is that there's certain cells that eat the offender, the infections, the bacteria.
Yeah, I've seen that green guy on the Mucinex commercials.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen him.
And so that guy, the guy that's eating all of the bacteria or the virus, and then that's what's happening is it's eating it, and then that's what ends up being, your pus or your mucus or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's the garbage of the body. And there's a reason that you want to get that out. And so the way to get that out is by coughing up gunk or blowing your nose or having diarrhea or whatever, or having pus come out of the wound or whatever that is, right?
You have diarrhea come out your nose? Whoa.
No.
That must be really bad diarrhea
then. That would be a whole nother, ball of wax.
That means that they didn't connect your plumbing back the right way.
Yes, exactly.
I'd be calling that person
That would
back.
not be good. But but that's your body's way of getting it out. Because if you're not coughing up the gunk, then there's no way, even if your body's doing a good job of eating up the virus, how do you get it out of the lungs?
Right, so why do they make things like Mucinex? You Mucinex in, mucus out. If that... isn't that helping your body to get rid of it?
But when you take Mucinex, what it does is it dries up the mucus, mostly, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and so it doesn't actually get it up and out of your body, it just dries it up. And so dried mucus is not as nearly as helpful as wet mucus.
Okay, well, I mean, it almost... I mean, you want it up and out of you, and so Mucinex just dries it out.
So Mucinex makes you feel better temporarily, but I don't think it's going to, for the most part, it doesn't help people get better faster.
All right, we got a phone call here at 970-553, or 970-385-1053. Yeah, that's the phone number I had. And this is the G-Man.
Hi, Jamie. Good morning.
Good morning. Say hi to Dr. Nicola.
Dr. Nicola, good morning.
Good morning, G-Man.
Let's go back to this coughing mucus, okay?
Yes.
A week ago, over the holidays, I had the crud. Everybody has now. I'm over it. I'm fine. My chest is clear. I'm not coughing up any mucus. But my olfactory, my nose, every morning produces so much boogers. I don't know if that's just an individual thing or what is with the nose that just drains all the time.
And is that's only been since you were sick?
Yeah, after I got sick, I get up in the morning and I go through a bunch of paper.
Yeah. So when you're waking up in the morning, you're basically you're having a lot of mucus and you're having to blow it out your nose. Is that right?
Yeah, and once I breathe well all night. It's dry all night. It's when I get up and start moving.
Yep. So a lot of times when we lay down in bed, a lot of the mucus and the gunk can kind of kind of lay down in our sinuses. So then when we pick our head up, it all starts draining out, right? So we can feel okay all night, and then as soon as we lift that head up, that the mucus starts draining. And so what you know, again, the same sort of stuff I've been recommending, but I would definitely either do a neti pot, and what that is another hydrotherapy, where you are, you know, they have these little ceramic pots, and you put, I would definitely put a little bit of essential oil. Again, essential oils up the nose, more, not better. 1 drop is what we're talking about here, of something like thyme or lavender or eucalyptus, something like that. And you mix it in real good with some saline, and then you kind of, basically you just put it at one nostril and tilt your head to the side, and the water will go through and touch all of those mucous membranes, and it comes out the other nostril. Jamie's about to have a heart attack. But or do a thyme steam. So thyme steam is another option for getting this medicine into the sinus cavities.
Yeah, hey G-Man, thanks for the phone call, and thanks for the visual that Dr. Nicola has just painted.
And maybe it's just me as an individual.
It is just you. I know you.
Anyway.
Yeah, what? I'm sorry?
Okay, thanks for the answer.
Okay. Appreciate the call, bud. I didn't mean to insult him. Well, maybe I didn't.
You gotta be nicer to people that call in.
No, I don't. Because look where it went.
I know, but these are real.
You put saline in your nose, and next you're going to tell me I got to put red peppers in there, so I'm salt and peppering my nose.
No. I would not do that pepper. But I think that he brings up a good point, which is a lot of people, once they've cleared most of whatever they go through, they still have this lingering sinus gunk that they just have a hard time getting rid of. But we stop treating it because we feel so much better.
We're at 90% of
right.
So we're like, I can deal with the runny nose. I'm good.
And it's just, and I only have the runny nose in the morning, and so I don't think about it the rest of the day. I go to sleep just fine, then I wake up and I still have this crud. It's like, well, we really do want to get rid of that too, because that's just kind of lingering, usually viral stuff. And so again, treating your sinuses so that you have some medicines, and you know, the best medicine that I know is the essential oils, to touch all that gunk that's on the inside and then get it out of the body.
All right, and I think something we before I so rudely interrupted you, we talk about recovery, and we're going to take a break. When we come back for our final segment, I want to talk about how to properly recover from being sick.
Awesome.
We've touched on it a couple of times during the course of the hour so far,
yep.
But I think there's an important point that people need to understand, and G-Man's phone call, I think, maybe what's sparking this.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not fully recovered. So we'll take that break and come back with more with the Rock Doctor, Dr. Nicola from Pure Vita Healthcare on X-Rock 105.
Stoked about finally getting in some turns now that ski season is almost here.
I did a nutty pot this morning.
You smoked what kind of pot? Nutty pot?
Did weird stuff come out?
Well, it was really funny. One side was fine, and the other side totally burned, and it was like, what? And now this side is kind of like congested again. I'm going to do it again.
I told you about, I was at a remote over New Year's weekend, went in the bathroom, blew my nose, and it was fine. And as I'm walking out, I kind of felt a little, like my nose was running again. I walked back in there, it just was green.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
But you want that out.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, it was just weird how
I
blew my nose, and I know how to do it where you close the one side off, and I'm getting it all out. It was a good nose blow, and then like I said, I thought, okay, I'm fine, and walked out.
Yeah, I know, it's so gross. Some of the stuff that comes out of our body, it's like, oh my god, what just happened?
Right?
Yeah.
Were you hiding inside me?
Oh.
Jackson.
Yeah, can I get you it's like baklava, but different.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like pastry with
Can
jam.
give you a little delicious.
Yeah, I'll do it after the show.
Bless you.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's not healthy.
You gotta try some.
It's sugar. I'm eating sugar.
Here we go. All right, it's our final segment with the Rock Doctor, Dr. Nicola from Pure Vita Healthcare on X-Rock 105. Last chance for you to get a question in at 970-385-1053. Or a text in at 970-553-9001. Okay, so cold and flu and all that good stuff, it's going around, and I guess other, low-level, things that make us feel like crap.
Yep.
We get sick, we're out for a day or two or three. Begrudgingly, we won't go to work, hopefully.
Right.
Nobody's that important.
Right. Hopefully you're staying home and taking care of yourself. Really, you'll get over it so much faster if you do.
Recovery from, let's say, I mean, we got the flu epidemic in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so chances are, you're going to get the flu at some point.
It's highly possible, but I'll tell you that the difference is, we were talking about how do these illnesses progress, right?
Right.
I think the biggest number one factor that I see is when you first feel that tickle, like we were talking about last week. I had that thing in my throat, and I'm like 10% sick right now. If I get on this and take care of myself and take the whole day, and I mean, it was a Saturday. It's not how I wanted to spend my Saturday, but I did. I stayed home. I didn't do the cleaning I was supposed to do. I didn't go out and snowboard or ski or whatever, but I did nap, and I woke up, and I was, pretty much better. And it was starting to get into a cough. I mean, it was starting to progress. But if you hit it right when it's coming on, and take care of it then. But a lot of times what happens is like, oh, it's just a tickle. It's just a little bit. I'm going to push through this because I have to do X, Y, and Z. So I would say prevention is most important when we can get on it. Like as soon as you feel not 100%, start doing whatever it is that you do to take care of yourself.
And maybe that means just go to bed an hour earlier.
Absolutely, or drink a little extra water, or maybe don't have some alcohol, before bed, or maybe just eat a little bit cleaner, and again, because when we're eating a little bit more simply, so somebody asked earlier today about what foods can you eat to stay healthy, just staying away from the sugars, the refined foods, eating whole foods, making sure you're getting lots of greens, lots of nutrients, lots of stuff with color.
Every week with the kale.
Greens are a really, really important part of staying healthy. It's pretty amazing what difference it can
She
make.
tries this thing now where she cleverly disguises it. She doesn't call it kale. She calls it greens.
It could be spinach. Could be
I love spinach.
There you go.
Love spinach.
All right, great.
I like green beans.
Okay. Green. I wouldn't call green bean a green, but
it's green.
It's a green veggie, but it's not a leafy.
See, this is why people have problem with you doctors. Y'all can't. I'm looking at a green bean. It's green.
Right, but when I'm talking about greens, I'm talking about leafy greens.
Oh, well, you didn't say that.
Yeah.
You said greens.
But if you get beets in the store and you get and they come with the big
the
beets,
Oh, like
yes,
beet.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But they come
What are
with
beets?
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. What are beets?
Beets are a root vegetable.
Sounds
and so
disgusting.
They're red.
I don't know what beets are.
I'm like, they're red. Sometimes they're gold. Sometimes they're like pink and white. They're really beautiful. Anyway,
so why do you eat them if they're beautiful?
Because they're really good for you. They come with it for the love. They come with a big, huge tub of greens on top of them, and most people cut that off and throw them away. And so, but that's actually another green too. So that doesn't have a lot of flavor. So just remove the stalk and stick it in your smoothie or your green drink, or saute them up with your spinach and garlic and mushrooms or whatever you like to do, and have that as a green. Why are we talking about this?
Because you said that we were talking about eating greens, and I pointed out that I like green beans, and you said that's not a green.
Well, because it's all about you.
It's all about you telling me how I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah, so eating healthy is just kind of just noticing when you're feeling a little run down, just eat a little cleaner.
How long? I mean, it's not like your body has a switch per se. I mean, you're sick and like you wake up one day after your fever is spiked, for example, and you feel good. Right. Are you fully recovered at that point? Is it an on-off thing?
No, absolutely not. And so I think that's the one thing that people do a lot too that sets them up to get sick again. And I see this all the time in my office where like I had a cold last week and then I felt better and now I'm feeling sick again. And like especially with these viral things, they can be really hard to clear. So what I recommend is whatever you are doing to take care of yourself, be that herbs or extra vitamin C or zinc or thyme steams or whatever, do that until you feel better plus 2 days. So, and that's what happens is people are like, oh, I feel so much better, and they stop taking their C and their extra vitamin D or whatever they're doing, and then they're wondering why they're kind of dragging,
right,
or maybe even getting sick again.
We live in such a weird business climate where, I mean, my rule of thumb, and it's probably okay, but it's probably not great for recovery. If I'm running a fever, I don't go to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I just don't.
Absolutely.
But now you're telling me that I should wait another day or two?
Potentially. I mean, if you can. So a lot of people have the option of working from home, or some people do these days. And so that's a really good, kind of intermediary option. So rather than getting up and getting dressed and going out in the cold air and being around people, and kind of you're more on when you're at work than when you're at home. People who work from home might argue that, but the reality is a different level of energy expenditure when you're with other people at your work setting.
Yeah, you've got your coworkers and stuff. It's more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's more fun, ideally. But there's just more energy. And so, if you can work from home, that's an ideal. Or can you do a half day? Or can you come up with some sort of compromise? Or just take an extra day to just kind of get yourself back together. Get to the grocery store. Set yourself back up. You've probably gone through whatever food you had in the house. And
when you hear things about people being contagious, when are they contagious?
Most of the time we're most contagious before we're actually symptomatic and right at the beginning of whatever it is that we're going on. But if we're coughing and sneezing a whole bunch, then we're spewing our droplets all over our working.
We're spreading our contagion all over Southwest Colorado.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have some contagion.
Kind of, So, but it's usually worse at the onset of symptoms.
So even before you even realize that you might be sick, or you might have that.
That's the most contagious time,
and you don't even know it.
Right.
So
yeah, and then when you're first sick, so when you first have a few symptoms, or when you first start coming down with it. Don't work the rest of the day. Leave. Go home.
Right.
Go take care of yourself.
That's where I was going with that. I mean, okay, great, you got the fever, but you've already been here for the last week and you made us all sick.
Right.
Thanks, Dick. But we live in a society though where we're expected to be at work unless we can't.
Unless you can't physically get out of
bed.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, a lot of employers are starting to rethink that because they're losing so many people.
Well, yeah, you could have one guy out for a couple of days, or you can have the whole office out for a week.
That's exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. And we're realizing that when people show up and they don't feel well, they're not as productive.
Right.
They're not working at 100%, and so we're paying people to be there when we're not really getting as much out of them as we could.
Yeah, we've had people here in the office sick, and it's like, don't come in.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah, totally.
The radio station will keep radio stationing.
Right, absolutely.
We don't need you.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly right. And when we're, let's just take a head cold. When you're stuffy and you don't feel good and your nose is running, you're not making the best decisions. You're not putting out your best work. You're fuzzy.
And then I'm talking on the radio like this. That's Route 105. I gotta.
Right, exactly. And it's just.
That sounds good.
And people might make a decision that's actually, if they were feeling well, they wouldn't have chosen that, and that can set up a ripple effect that. Or if you're, let's say, driving heavy machinery and not totally paying attention, or not on your game like you were, like you can be, you're actually setting yourself and the company up for a lot more potential harm. So I think employers more and more are coming to understand that when somebody's sick, just send them home.
Right. Let them take that half day or day off or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we've already established that I eat terrible. I'm getting better, but
except on Saturday mornings.
Well, except on Saturday mornings and on Thursday afternoons. It's my twice a week. I'm up to 2 days now.
Okay, great.
What can I do? I mean, you've already talked, at length on the show today, and it was good stuff about eating right and setting your immune system up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that guy. Is there anything else I can do right now to stop from getting sick this year?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I think there's stuff like zinc lozenges are a really good thing to take. Zinc is a nice thing to boost immune system. Take a little extra vitamin C. The one caveat that I have with that is that a lot of people love those emergency packets. They're really easy and they're pretty tasty, but most of them have 5 grams of sugar, which is over a teaspoon of sugar.
So that's you've taken the emergency to build your immune system, and the sugar is
That's exactly right. So there are other options of things that you can get. Like I found the one's called FRC, and again, this is not promoting anything in particular, but the elderberry flavor, for whatever reason, they don't sweeten it with sugar, but a lot of their other flavors they do have with sugar. So read your labels. Just because it says it's a vitamin C supplement doesn't mean it doesn't have a boatload of sugar on board. So if because if you're taking, let's say, 4 of those emergency packets a day, you take one of them 4 times a day, that means you're taking in an extra 5 teaspoons of pure sugar as part of your prevention regimen, which is kind of not good.
And it's probably not the emergency that's making you feel good, it's the sugar boost.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so looking for vitamin C that isn't loaded up with sugar is a really important thing.
Eat an orange.
Or just maybe you eat whatever you're eating, but supplement with have an extra orange or 2 a day.
Is it true an apple a day will keep the doctor away?
I don't know. Have you been eating an apple?
No.
Well, here I am.
No, I mean, that's
yeah. No, I don't know that there's much truth. I mean, there's good stuff in apples for
Sure.
sure. I mean, it's really, really good source of.
I mean, that green paste you brought in last week had apples in it.
It did. It did. It wasn't paste. The stuff before that was pasty for sure. But last time it wasn't paste. It was pretty thin.
Well, I mean, it was good. I'm not complaining. It was. I was just gonna say you got me to eat apples.
But no, I mean,
you came back. So.
I don't think that there's anything particular about having an apple every day. I mean, maybe they were talking about. I don't know when that adage came out.
I remember hearing that when I was a kid, way back in the one-room school days.
Yeah, I'm wondering if people maybe weren't eating enough fiber, and maybe that kind of kept people going.
Sure, we'll go with that. Dr. Nicola, great show. I mean, it's all you give great advice, and it's easy to digest. No pun intended. And if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Give us a buzz on 970-426-1684. Come see us. We're over on 12th Street across from Buckley Park. Get you a wellness shot if you are feeling like you have been exposed and you want a little immune boost. We have a really great combo for that. So you can just drop in and get one of those, or look us up, drnicola.com.
Pure Vida Healthcare, baby.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful weekend. We're still hoping for snow.
I know it. It's snowing up at Perg yesterday.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so.
We'll find out, I guess.
I know, it's all coming.
Yeah, we'll get it all in one storm in the middle of February. Mark my words.
Hope not.
We will catch you back here next Saturday morning at 8 for the Rock Doctor on X-Rock
105.3.
Wow, look at that. She's got it.
That was good.
I think I don't think we got a lot of calls because I think people were just listening.
Cool.
Because they're all sick.
And rolling their eyes. Oh, did it say finish? Is it a finish button?
Sammy's Beach Bar Rum presents Sammy Hagar's Top Rock
I need my
Countdown.
glasses.
Sammy counts down whatever he wants. Sammy's Top Rock Countdown is brought to you by Sammy's Beach Bar Rum.